This is a 190 Q&A practice test. Plaintiff attorney, Mr. Allen, capital A-L-L-E-N. Defense attorney, Mr. Stevens, capital S-T-E-V-E-N-S. And we'll start with defense attorney. Ready? Here we go. So you weren't back at the lab. You don't know what was going on with the Explorer that was at the lab. That's right. Okay, you started doing, did you actually complete the burn barrels? No, you started them, then got interrupted, right? And then you went off to this, turned out to be nothing, but at that time you thought might be a possible burial site, right? And that took up a good part of your day, sounds like. Yes, from about 12:30 to 5:45. Okay, so did you do anything else later that evening? Then we went back to the garage in Chilton and continued sifting the barrels. Now, by sifting the barrels, are you talking about using that same contraption you mentioned earlier? Yes. Is that something you always have with you in your van? Yes. Okay, not something you brought just for this case? No. And then the next day, September 3rd, you started off back at the sheriff's department, right? Yes. We're talking about here in Chilton. Yes. These barrels, where were they kept? In the service garage behind the sheriff's department. And when you got there, were they in any kind of container, or were they just sitting out in the garage? When we first arrived, they were in an enclosed trailer. That's the day before, right? And was that sealed with any kind of evidence tape? I believe the door to the garage had been sealed with evidence tape, and the trailer had a padlock on it. I don't recall if that had evidence tape on it or not. And there's no other door to the garage from the interior. This is a detached garage. Okay, and the gentleman that you said was helping you was Jim Hawks, is that right? Yes, and to your knowledge he is employed with Braxton County Sheriff's Department, right? Yes, and to your knowledge he is certainly qualified to be evidence collection specialist, right? I believe he presented himself as their evidence caretaker. He is the main guy, right? I believe so. Did you see him out at the scene on September 1st? No, I did not. Or 2nd? No. All right, this fifth barrel that you examined was on the morning of Tuesday, September 5th, right? And the photo, I think, is still in front of you that you discussed before. That's a photo you took before searching it. No, we didn't take that photo. Who took that photo? Do you know? I don't know. Did you take photos of it before you started searching? No. Why not? Because it had been removed from where it had been transported, and then our goal was to sift it and recover that. Our goal there was to sift the contents, any documentation of the barrels at the scene. That was done by somebody else. It may or may not be the way it looked. You don't know? No, I don't know. I was presented this morning and asked if that looked like the fifth barrel, and it does to me. All right, but in terms of it's what it looked like out there on the scene. Have you ever seen a photo that shows that? He showed me several photos. One of them was further away, and it had the wheel that was in the barrel when I saw it, because this photo doesn't have the wheel in it, right? So I asked about the wheel. He said, oh yeah, there's another photo that shows the wheel. They took the wheel and looked inside, and that photo shows the wheel on the ground next to it, right? All right, so you were never brought to the scene of wherever that burn barrel was yourself? No. So you never actually saw it, so to speak, wherever it was located, and that's why you didn't take photos of it. Well, I recall that there was a burn barrel on the driveway, and that's where I was told this one had been, but you didn't go up and examine it? No, did not examine it. One of the things you say that you do is scene photography, right? Yes, and generally that's supposed to be one of the first things that's done at the scene before somebody starts searching, right? So, for instance, had you been asked to go into Mr. Polk's house on the night of September 3rd, very first thing you would have done before anybody else looks anywhere is take photos, right? And had you been asked to go into Mr. Polk's garage first, the very first thing you would have done would be to take photos showing exactly what it looked like, right? Before there's any kind of markings or chalk circles or anything like that, right? Sure. You want to get a good photo that really captures everything that's in there, all the junk that you mentioned, yes, and the location of all the items, right? Yes, and only then, after you photographed and documented the scene, do you start moving things around, collecting whatever, right? Because once you do that, you have altered the scene. That's right. And when you were called over to this burn area behind the garage, you didn't take any pictures then either, did you? And that's because the scene had been altered before you arrived. Isn't that right? Yes. And in fact, you expressed concern at one point to the investigators in this case that you had been unable to make a more thorough record because you were not used for the complete scene processing. Is that right? Objection to the term concern. It's speculation. All right, we'll get more specific then. All right, Mr. Olson, showing you exhibit number 160. Can you identify that, please? It's an email to and from Bob Riley and myself. He emailed me and I replied to him. All right, and in this email, I don't know that we need to put it up on the screen. You are explaining why you did not take pictures of either that burn pit area or where the license plate vehicle was. Is that right? Yes. And in that you state in regards to the burn pit, our involvement began with a request to use our sifting equipment. The scene had obviously been altered at that point. Is that right? Yes. And then would you go on and read the next sentence, please? Read it out loud. I'm trying to find it. I was not following along. I was recollecting. Second paragraph on the top there. Had we been working any of these scenes from start to finish, there would likely have been more thorough photo records done by us. However, under the circumstances, we were merely able to provide technical assistance rather than complete scene processing. Okay, so more typically, if you are called to the scene to process potential evidence, you are able to do so from start to finish, right? I would say the majority of cases when we arrive at the scene, we are given over control and we take the lead, okay? And process it according to the way we would normally process. Okay, and Mr. Riley didn't let you do that in this case, did he? In this case, I don't believe that would have been possible due to the size of the scene. Sure, but because of the 40 acres or whatever, yes, but with regard to this, Mr. Polk's house, Mr. Riley didn't let you do that, right? He didn't request that we do that. By the time you went into Mr. Polk's house, it was clear someone else had already been through it, right? Yes. And with regard to Mr. Polk's garage or detached garage next to his house, Mr. Riley didn't allow you to do that complete scene processing there either, did he? Objection to the use of didn't allow. The question is, it's improper as to, I will rephrase, thank you. He didn't ask you to do that. He did not. Okay, and likewise with this burn area, by the time you arrived, it was impossible for you to do a complete scene processing because someone else had been altering it, right? Right. Judge, I have a lot to go over yet. We may want to take a break. All right, we'll take our lunch break at this time. Members of the jury, again, do not discuss this case during your lunch hour, and we'll see you after lunch. All right, Mr. Olson, I'm not exactly sure where we left off, but let's talk about luminol for a minute. All right, luminol is this substance that reacts to a murder of different things, number of different things besides just blood, right? That's right, other kinds of chemicals. You mentioned cleaning agents, bleach reacts real highly to that, very strong, yes, which means very bright and fast, yes. Okay, what about other kinds of things? I know it reacts with some metals. All right, the word list. Explorer, capital EXPLORER. Chilton, capital CHILTON. Jim Hawks, capital JIM. New word, capital HAWKS. Braxton, capital BRAXTON. Polk, capital POLK. Olson, capital OLSON. Bob Riley, capital BOB New word, capital R-I-L-E-Y. And that is it for the word list. And that will conclude our 190 Q&A practice test.